Okay, well, 7 o'clock, call this meeting to order. Please stand, remove your hats, and we'll pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have any additions or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, I call for a motion for its approval.
So moved. I'll second.
A motion properly supported to accept the agenda as printed. Any other discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. We have the minutes of our last meeting, November 11th, 2025. I'm assuming everybody has received a copy either electronically or in print. Based on that assumption, is there any corrections or additions that we need to make on that? Hearing none, we'll call for a motion to approve the minutes for November 11th, 2025 regular meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
We have a motion,
Support.
properly supported. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, okay. Public comment, at this time, we would offer the opportunity for the audience to give us any comments regarding items on the agenda. We will be holding a public hearing on the accessory dwelling units regulations and having a discussion on data center regulations, so is there anybody that has anything to comment on at this time?
Does that have to be about what's on there?
You'll
Or is that the end, you do?
at the end, we'll
Okay.
have another. Okay.
Yeah, I'll say something about.
Yes,
So Brookburg, 10870 Phelps Road, and I just wanna talk a little bit about the data centers and a moratorium on them. There's a lot of talk about energy use and water use and a lot of other things, and I would like to just, say to my libertarian friends who don't like the government telling them what to do with their property, I'm down with that. I don't like that idea either, but at the same time, there's an expectation of love your neighbor. And I have the expectation that I wouldn't open up a 24-hour disco and keep my neighbors up all night, or have a gravel pit there or something like that.
Right.
And when it comes to the data centers, again, you'll hear a lot about power and water usage and things like that, but there's something that's near and dear to the identity of Sparta, and that's apples.
Yep.
And data centers affect pollinators and bees in a very significant way. So I would like to support the moratorium. There's a lot of studies about it, but I'm sure there's just as many studies saying that they don't. So, which means that, there needs to be more time to learn about the effects. So I just want to say I support it. I don't want to see Sparta lose its identity as the apple capital of Michigan.
right. We've been gathering a lot of information on it. There's a lot more to gather.
Yep. So I just want to make a statement.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I didn't get your name, sir, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes.
Brooke, B-R-O-O-K, Berg, B-U-R-G.
You're gonna have to say, please state your name for the record.
My name is Julie Sanford. Do you need my address?
I think so.
I'm at 370 Nelson Street.
Is it S-T-A-F-O-R-D,
No T.
Stafford?
Sanford, like Sanford and Son, if you're old enough to know that. I also support a moratorium on the data centers. I have a master's in environmental science, and I'd be happy to help with different environmental assessments or whatever you're gathering. There are multiple reasons. The water is not just the water use, but also the wastewater created. In Ohio, right now, the EPA is considering allowing discharge to surface water bodies because their wastewater treatment centers can't handle the amount of water coming out, which is pretty scary for the surface water quality. Also, just the noise. It's a really quiet community. I love how quiet it is at night, get a good night's sleep. And the videos I've seen on the noise from them is outrageous. Plus the lights from them. I don't know about others, but I like to go out and look at the stars, and that would be troublesome if the lights from them would affect our night skies. The other thing with them, which I don't really understand, it seems like usually there's some kind of federal agency that would have to give permits or have regulations about them. And if there are, then there should be environmental assessments done, environmental impact statements. So I'm not understanding how they're getting around that. I have done those kind of assessments in the
Well,
past.
again, we're in the process of writing, or we will be writing regulations for it. And I share your comments. You know, I have a master's degree in public health, so.
Yes, so
and
you're-
I worked
yes.
for the DNR for 40 years, so
Yeah.
I know all the ins and outs, so.
Yeah,
And a lot of your issues have been already brought up amongst ourselves.
okay,
And we have a number of articles, and Kevin has been providing us with articles about it, so.
okay. Well, if I can be of any assistance, I'd be happy to help too with that, but that's it, so thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I love that you work for the DNR. It's awesome. I also have a background in biology. My name's Jackie Landon. My address is 3957 15 Mile Road. My husband Wes and I own Native Edge, and our company, well, I have a master's in aquatic biology and I studied the impacts of land use on our streams and watersheds. I'm here to show support for the moratorium on data centers. After reading the packet, it looks like you are doing a lot of research, and I super appreciate that. It's honestly still confusing, so I would love for you guys to explain a little bit more on what that all looks like. Just after reading the list of major concerns with the data centers in that packet you shared, I noticed there were a few missing. One that I believe is extremely important is the water and air pollution. Like said before, environmental groups are reporting that communities that live near data centers have an increased risk of cancer. They're also reporting that PFAS are directly and indirectly contaminating communities. There's also nitrate contamination. Amazon Data Center in Eastern Oregon has been linked to a huge rise in rare cancers, muscle conditions, and miscarriages. So I know we're talking about a lot about water, the amount of water we use, but these are also extremely harmful to our water, which it sounds like you guys care about. Second, something that wasn't really mentioned that I think is important is the lack of economic impact. So these tech companies, these billionaires, come in telling communities that they provide lots of jobs. Recently, reports came out that they aren't creating new jobs, they're creating temporary jobs filled by outside labor and aren't benefiting locals. So Sparta won't see any benefit from this. And lastly, Sparta is not a place for data centers. Please pass the moratorium so that people in the township can make Sparta a place free from all these data centers. With all the uncertainty, Sparta needs to take time and do more research on how to properly protect the citizens. Thank you.
The moratorium basically will just kind of put everything on hold while we have a chance to review the data, talk to other communities that have had them, and many of your concerns are my concerns also, so. All right. Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name's Greg Rademacher. My address is 1095 Phelps Avenue. So I live less than a half a mile from the rodeo grounds, and my wife and I would be certainly impacted if a data center was constructed on the rodeo grounds property. So there's been a lot of talk, and I haven't seen the packet, I didn't get one when I came in, but about the impacts to the community, including environmental impacts, and noise impacts is the one that's really big for me, considering we're located so close to the proposed site, if that comes to that. So two things I would ask and wonder from the group is whether the moratorium is appropriate, or if we can just come out and state that we're against the building of a data center on that property. It seems clear that there's an impact that's much larger than any of us can assess in a short amount of time and vote on whether or not it's a good or a bad idea for the community. Secondarily, I also wonder whether or not there's, it's a small community, we all know that. It's a piece of property that's bordered by other property that's owned by people that obviously are local, live in the township. And I do wonder whether or not there's been any talk about any of the, and I don't know, and any of you on the board don't know whether or not you would have a conflict. But if there's anybody that would have a conflict based on the financial impact of this decision, either within the planning commission or within the board, whether or not those folks have been recused themselves from consideration of approval of land use for a data center. Thank you.
Greg, what was your last name again?
Rademacher, Rademacher.
Thank you.
Well, let me clear something up first of all. The rodeo ground is village property. Okay, we're the township. Our concern, obviously, we have some concerns about it being on the rodeo grounds, but also the potential impact to the properties to the west, north, and south. You know, most of those are agricultural properties, which we have worked for years and years to try to preserve our agricultural qualities within the community. So, but the moratorium would give us an opportunity to deal with potential expansion of those operations or actually siting of them in different areas within the township. So we're on board with you. So. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
I don't know the rules on this stuff. I've only been here for about 3 years. I'm on Indian Lakes. My name's Joan Knoschmeg. That's a mouthful. 1055 Indian Lakes. And I'm concerned because right around for me there's all that vacant land and I'm on the border of all these different jurisdictions. And I've heard from people who have kennels for dogs. And I'm a gardener myself. I'm outside from the minute the sun comes up, the minute the sun goes down. I'm concerned about the low frequency sound, which they say gives you headaches. My husband already gets headaches, I don't. Anxiety, insomnia, I mean, all this stuff, these are my golden years. I don't want this, I didn't move here for that. And I have dogs and other people have horses that they've done for their business, their livelihood for years and years, stables and boarding horses, and all the animals are much more bothered by these low frequency sounds than we are. And this is an agricultural community. Are all those people supposed to just get up and, their livelihood and their animals, and what are they supposed to do? Because I guess low frequency, you can't put up a fence or a hedge or a great big tree because it bends and it goes around everything. It's not the sound is same as a loud booming noise or even a factory. So wherever they go, I hope the moratorium covers the whole Sparta Township. Because I want to be outside, and I figure if this goes through, everybody's property values is going to go, because if I can't be outside and enjoy my birds and my nature and what I came here for, then what am I going to stay for? And I'm 65 years old. I don't want to have to move again. So.
Thank you.
You want to spell your last name for me?
KENOSHMEG.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I would, please. Sorry.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. All right, my name is Morgan Anderson with a S-O-N at the end. They do differ. I speak on behalf of my family farm on 12665 Phelps Ave Northwest. And I am not going to reflect what the other people said because I agree with what they're saying and have a similar ask. However, I have an additional ask of you guys be transparent. I think it's been very discouraging lately. It's been discouraging and honestly just sad that we can't even have transparency at the most local level of government. So I would really please just encourage you guys to over communicate in whatever way that feels comfortable to you. but I would really appreciate that to understand what you guys are thinking when we're not sitting here in this room. Information that as soon as you find it out, it's shared and it's not the secret agreement or discussion, and you follow the Open Meetings Act and things are just as transparent as possible. So I'd really appreciate that, which is a different ask.
Right.
Yeah.
Similar, but it's different, so.
Well, again,
Thank
you know,
you.
the village is dealing with the rodeo grounds. We're here as a preemptive type of look at these data centers to determine whether or not one, we're going to allow them, and if we're going to allow them, what kind of restrictions are we gonna place on? You know, you mentioned an environmental impact statement. Again, working with the DNR over the years, environmental impact statements were a must for just about anything.
Right,
You know, so those things are something that I have a concern for. We've read about the frequencies, the noise issue, the water. What are they gonna do with the water? Are they gonna extract water from a well? Is that gonna impact our wells? You know, those types of things. So all of these we're going to be looking at. But again, the village is doing their own thing and I won't comment on it. But we'll wait and see. So you need to voice your opinions with them also. Okay, with that,
Morgan, what street did you live on? I didn't catch it.
12665 Phelps.
Thanks.
Thank
Can I
you.
just ask a follow-up question? Maybe
Sure.
you said the village owns it, but in that one meeting, the manager said it's privately owned.
well, it's privately owned, but it's within the village boundaries.
Gotcha,
Okay,
gotcha. Okay.
Right.
And they don't have a planning commission type thing?
Yes, they have.
Oh, they do?
Yes, they have
Oh,
a planning
okay,
commission,
gotcha.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
sorry, trying to learn.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, anything else? Okay, with that, we'll open up the business item, public hearing on the accessory dwelling units regulations. And Kevin, you wanna just give us a quick update on that? And we'll then open it up to the public if they have anything to comment.
So the last time the planning commission reviewed this would have been at your October meeting. We worked to create regulations to allow accessory dwelling units anywhere that a single family home is permitted. Provide for the regulations. Since your October meeting, the proposed ordinance has been reviewed by legal counsel. There should be 2 copies of the ordinance in your packet. One shows the red line heads that have been recommended by legal counsel to make. To summarize the changes, there's been no major changes to the regulations that the planning commission created. A lot of the changes are minor in nature and they're meant to either clarify or tighten up the regulations. But again, no major changes have been proposed. So tonight, pending the conclusion of the public hearing, it would be up to the planning commission on whether to recommend adoption of the ordinance to the board or not.
And just as a point of background on this was an issue that was brought to us. We are becoming an older society, and there's a need for secondary homes or secondary dwellings possibly on a parcel to accommodate an aging individual or even a youngster that's maybe mentally challenged, but yet you wanna give them their independence, but yet you wanna be able to keep them present. So that's what we attempted to do with this, so. I guess with that, I'd open it up. Are there any comments from the public regarding or questions that they may have?
I have a question.
Okay.
What about large finished basements with exterior, do you have to put exterior access on it?
Kevin, I don't think we've really talked about that, have we? I mean, a basement situation, where you basically got a room for.
So if somebody was to put a mother-in-law suite per se
Right.
within their basement, it'd just be required to meet building code, so that would still be considered, so. Let's say mom or dad move into the basement, you build an in-law suite, that'd still be considered a single family dwelling.
Right.
That would not be considered an accessory dwelling unit, it's also a mother-in-law suite was created within the basement.
Does that answer your question?
Well, so then I wouldn't need special.
No.
Something to put in a stove, or what about an outdoor entrance, a second entrance? Stairs.
You probably have to have some type of means of entrance and egress, just for
We
the
have an
building.
egress window and all that, and we just never use our basement. And I figure I'll end up in there when I get old, that's my plan.
And if anybody has any comment, please come up to the podium, state your name for the record, and provide us with your comments. And
I got one, Terry. Easy one. Bill Goodfellow, 2267 12 Mile Road. ADUs shall not be utilized motel, motorhome, motor hotel, boarding house, lodging, rooming house. It doesn't say anything about rental. Are you assuming those are rentals? Just a question.
yeah. I mean, for rentals for the general public, or?
That's correct.
Okay.
I would assume you wouldn't wanna do that.
No, I thought didn't we talk about that, Kevin?
So right now, the way the regulations are written, so it has to be detached, can only be accessory to a single family dwelling. And the property owner has to maintain residence, so they either have to live in the main building or the accessory dwelling unit. I'm just double checking myself, cause I'm working with a couple of communities on the regulations, so there's nothing in here that would say that it's only allowed for a family member. So it is a potential that somebody would be able to build an accessory dwelling unit.
Yeah, I know some of the ones that we reviewed specifically stated that it was not intended for the general public, basically. It was specific purpose to house a family member. But that can get a little difficult to,
154.253 R states that motel, hotel, motor hotel, boarding house, lodging house, rooming house, or bed and breakfast. Yeah, it shall not be utilized as.
So to clarify that for the planning commission, that would be in regards to like short-term rentals and things
Right.
like that, but that would not address long-term use of the structure. If you'd like to see that language added, I'm pulling up another sample of language that we could add to the regulations.
What's that? It's actually the same. Maybe should not be utilized as a motel, hotel.
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
like the guy said out there, if it can't be utilized as a motel, hotel, motor, all the other things, that's a short term, so then in theory you can't use it as long term either for the same thing, right?
I would assume that would be correct, yes.
So that's where, from a zoning ordinance perspective, you know, when we talk about short-term rentals versus long-term, so we can treat motels differently than a single-family dwelling, but we can't regulate for single-family dwellings, whether it's the property owner that lives there. So let's say they have a house, they rent it out for 6 months, they're using that building as a single-family dwelling. So we can't regulate, as long as it's being used as a single-family dwelling,
I see.
and not in the short-term manner where, hey, somebody's staying for a night or a week or something like that, we would not be able to restrict that. For accessory dwellings, we can add language back in that would say, you know, it has to be a family member if you wanted to avoid that use of somebody building an accessory dwelling unit and then renting it out to an unrelated individual.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Another thing we talked about before was the enforcement of trying to follow some of these rules and stuff.
Right,
I worry a little bit about,
that's where it gets a
it's
little
one of my
difficult.
concerns. I don't know how you're gonna determine who the person is in that accessory dwelling unit per se. I mean, you know what I mean? I guess I don't know how you could,
No.
or this week it's this person and then who's gonna be in our group or enforcement people that could actually even go out and even poll check the residency of see who's actually there.
Right.
Or is that important?
I think it has some importance there. I mean, I think we need to maybe look at that. Now, I remember some of the drafts or other ordinances we had, they had something about the addresses. They'd be, both of them would be the same address, is that?
That's typically something for addressing that would be addressed through,
Cause it wouldn't be a separate
County
parcel of
dispatch.
land, it'd be, you know, same property.
one of the things we've worked on in the township is like working with the Sparta airport. So the airport's on one property, but then we've been working with the airport manager to get a separate address for each individual hangar.
Okay.
So that way if there is an emergency, they can call that address into emergency services and they know which hangar to go to instead of just the airport. We'd likely work with something similar. Hey, if you put an accessory dwelling unit, we'd work with Kent County to give that accessory dwelling a separate, like, I guess you'd call it the parent address and then a child address. So it'd still be one property, but they'd have separate addresses for emergency responders.
Well, let's continue with the comments and then we'll get to our discussion as far as that goes. Anyone else have anything regarding this particular ordinance?
I have a question, is there something in there that they can't use them as those Airbnbs type of things?
That's the short term that we're talking about.
Oh, that's in there?
Yes.
You know, those weekend things, entertainment type of cottage, I don't know.
Anything else from the public? Okay, I'll close the public portion of it and I guess we'll continue with the discussion. How is this gonna work as far as taxes go?
I'm not qualified to truly answer that
But
question.
I mean, you know, you have a homestead type, you know, your taxes are based on the fact that you own the house. You have a rental unit, then how is that gonna work?
Well, it's not supposed to be considered a rental yet,
Right, okay.
right?
Yeah, I mean, for taxes, it would just, I'm assuming it would be based on the improvements are made would impact the taxable value. Other than that, I can't give a more detailed answer on how taxes would be impacted. So, if the planning commission would like to see that language around, you know, persons must be related by family. As Ken mentioned, that could be difficult to enforce. My understanding was that was some of the reasons requiring the property owner to live on the property. You know, you're only requiring long-term rentals. But if you did wanna see that language put back in, we could add a subsection for, would say persons occupying an accessory dwelling unit must be a family member of the person occupying the single family dwelling on the lot. They must be related. We can add language into that. If you wanted to add that language in as a recommendation to the board.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
if I could state my opinion on that, I don't know that that's really a fair thing to impose. I mean, I think we all could say that we have friends that are not maybe legally family, but could be considered as such, that we'd wanna take care of. So in doing a restriction like that, that it has to be a legal family member, I think that would put a hindrance on something like that, in my opinion. I don't know that that language is needed in my opinion.
anybody else have any comments relative to that issue or?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I do.
okay.
I like my friends better than my family. I feel more next to me than I would my family,
Yeah.
just saying. But I guess I don't know about the rentals in talking about the person that owns the property has to live on the property, cause to be honest with you, if I was a single guy and had the property, I wouldn't mind building myself a little couple room shack in the back of the property and then getting $1,600 and $1,800 a month for my house, right? I agree with Mr. Goodfellow, I don't like the fact that, I think there should be something in there, so they can't be used as rentals, cause I think the whole reason we're doing this is to, in an effort, the reason it was brought to us, like you said, Jerry, it was because of elderly family members and for like special needs kids that are just moving out on their own, and that's kinda in theory how we're looking at it.
Right.
But the problem is everybody, you know, they take every rule they can and they bend it a little bit to work in their favor. I mean, everybody does, we all do it with a tax man, right? They don't make the rules, you just learn how to play by them. So I don't like that fact, and what's probably gonna end up happening on some of them is they're gonna end up being rentals, and there's gonna be no record of being a rental, right? They're just gonna come up and pay cash every month and put it in the bank, so I don't know how we can. I would like to see them not be allowed to be used as rentals, but I don't know, that's one of the things that, we put that rule in there, and then you talk about the enforcement aspect, right? Cause to me, yeah, if you have a rule, there should be an enforcement mechanism and something in place to do that, but, that's one that's gonna be extremely tough to enforce and prove. Because like I said, if I was a property owner and single guy, I'd move in the back and rent my house out for cash every month, give them a little better deal if they do it that way, because the only way you can get it is by them claiming it and then you claiming it, and so I'm not so sure that I like that, and I can't imagine there's any other taxing mechanism than that's your homestead, right? So your property value, your increased square footage, and appraisals are gonna go up based on that being in there, but it's still gonna be taxed as if it's your homestead, whether there's an accessory dwelling unit on it or not. So, but I would like to see something, even though I don't like rules you can't enforce, but I would still like a rule in there that you can't enforce about rentals, because you're just not going to do it.
I mean, it could be used in the extreme cases. I mean, it wouldn't be
Right.
something that we would be going out every year and saying who's living in the house,
Right.
type of thing.
Cause my bottom line is, even if I had a special needs child that was trying to get out on their own, and I know they would have some state or federal funding also.
Right.
I would want them, for their own good, to make a token payment to me every month.
Sure.
Right, just so they learn, hey, if you're trying to teach them to live on their own, there's bills and then there's obligations that you have to meet and work towards all the time, so.
You're kinda assuming what level of special needs they have.
Excuse me, ma'am.
So-
Excuse me, ma'am.
Sorry.
So that's just my thoughts.
What happens when that child decides to move out? What happens to the house then?
Well,
It's there.
They would have to find somebody else that would fit the qualification?
if they wanted to, you know, if they had another member of something, or it just become, you know, you're not talking about a huge building. So it could be storage, it could be any number of things, man cave, you know, or
There you go.
so,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I mean, similar to what Don was talking about, we did discuss that at length because of the elderly person potentially that would be in there.
Yeah, isolated.
When they're passing, then what do we do now?
Yeah.
And it is kind of a tough one to look out there and anticipate.
And Tim did invest a lot of money in it too, and like,
But I mean, if you try to put the timeline on it, you say, okay, this person's there maybe 5 years, 10 years, and as we know, time goes by, and then all of a sudden they pass away, then the scenario changes, and then how does it fit? Kind of to Tim's point, how does it, maybe you don't have that person anymore that needed it, or anybody in line to need it. We had a lot of good questions.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
good answers.
There'd be another argument for not having it be a family.
Family member, yeah.
And I know the lady in the audience said something too about, she would like to convert her basement in, but she has an egress window, but for an elderly person to get out of the egress window is difficult.
Well, we got a slider and stairs and all that too.
And the basement part of it is separate than this. This is
Right,
really
but-
just about that unit, that accessory dwelling unit, I think if we can.
Like what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
if they have an egress out, the regular, place where they can get out without it, having to climb out through a 4-foot window.
Fair enough, yeah.
But again, a basement would, it could be done. I mean,
Right,
as long as
yeah.
they went with the building codes and everything else, there's nothing that says you can't have 2 kitchens in a house.
Okay.
Type of thing, so. Where do we wanna go with this, guys? Kevin, any thoughts? I mean, obviously, we could go pass it with the, maybe put some language in there as far as rental.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm waiting to see from the planning commission
Yeah.
is where you stand is, there's, you put that family restriction in place. Do we try to put in this restriction for not allowing it as rental? Do we try to combine both? I think one or the other would probably be best. I really need direction on where you guys wanna go so I can prepare the proper language.
Right.
I think if you restrict it to family members, I have that sample language.
Right.
If we wanted to put language in place that says this can't be used as a rental, I would ask that you table it and allow me some time to work with legal counsel to prepare an appropriate language before making a recommendation to the board. I just need to have that direction from you guys on what path you wanna do. Do you wanna put in one of those restrictions or is that not a concern?
What's the consensus of opinion? Jim, how do you wanna go with this?
The problem is, once again, right, you find out what the rules are in life, and then you work those rules as best fits you and what you wanna do. Because you say you can't be a rental unit, so then maybe I'm not renting the building, but I'm charging them $1,100 a month for my water. Right, I mean, there's, the problem is with that is you could put it in there, but there's so many ways, to work that avenue. So I just don't.
We can't anticipate all of them.
Right, and I don't want them used as rentals, but I just don't know how you can, right, set it up to.
Putting the language in there would at least give us something if
Yes.
it got to the extreme situation.
Correct.
Don?
I'm thinking, the way we're working right now is we'll work out the kinks in it. Like I say, I think there should be some guide rules. But how to enforce.
So you in favor of putting something in there that would limit it to,
Right.
it says it can't be a rental, a family member, not a rental, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm in favor of some language stipulating it's not a rental unit. I think if it's not, then I think it could go to a short-term rental situation, even though we don't allow short-term rentals.
There's a lot of writing.
Okay.
I'm worried in trying to come up with this potential solution for this, say, mother-in-law or father-in-law or elder, that we're gonna create a bigger problem in trying to make this happen, that we're gonna have potentially a bunch of other problems that go along with that. And I'm wondering out loud if there's other ways, similar to modifying your own house or modifying part of your house or adding a wing. I have some neighbors that did that with their child and it's very nice, but I mean, they don't have an accessory dwelling unit, they just added an extra wing with the proper access, egress and ingress and so I'm concerned right now, as I sit here, that I'm worried that if we put this in there, the Sparta Township would end up with a bunch of buildings that are a minimum of 300 and maximum of 850 that worked good for a minute, but then maybe 5 years from now don't work as good. And what did they get used for? Kind of to Tim's point, what did they get used for then? or in trying to restrict it, that it doesn't become usable for that landowner or property owner. That's my concerns.
Get some direction there? Not really.
I don't know if you wanted to, I mean, just in regards to Ken's comment, I mean,
No.
right now, if somebody wanted to put on an addition to allow for mother-in-law suite, that would be something that would be allowed through the zoning ordinance, cause it would still be considered a single family dwelling. So yeah, I mean, that is an option not to move forward with the ordinance. You do not have to allow for detached accessory dwelling units. So I think if you did wanna move forward, I think it sounds like you do wanna see some sort of revisions that would restrict, that says, may not be used as a rental or some similar language. So is that the direction you would like me to move forward with, is prepare language that would not allow them to be used as rentals?
I think that's kind of the way we're going. You know,
There again, and listening to what Ken just discussed though, I mean, are we developing something to where we could have the potential to decrease property values because we have all these parcels that have tiny dwellings on them? What does that do to the value of our property, right? I mean, what we're gonna say is we can't use them as rentals. They're only gonna be used, you know, by someone that's ill or elderly.
Right.
And we know that's a short-term situation in most cases, right? Less than a 10-year period. What happens after that? Do you go out and find another elderly person?
You become elderly.
I am there, but I guess that's a concern that came to mind as Ken was talking through his scenario, right? I mean, does that help property values or does it hurt property values?
I think it'd help.
I would think it would improve it, yeah.
I'm not sure.
Tim, you got a comment? You look like you wanna.
Yeah, I just, now that we went through all this, I get, in special cases, it may be necessary, I don't know if, how are we doing this? Are we doing this, it's by right in, parcel, or is it special use permit?
It's currently a use by right.
Use by right. If anything, I would think that to get a little more control over it,
Might be a
it would be
good
by
one.
special use permit, but I don't know what the difference is of building a 300 square foot or 800 square foot building in your backyard, what the difference would be that and connecting it right to your house. Right, and now it's already their right, if they wanna build a mother-in-law's wing or a child's wing, they can build it right to their, just go get a building permit, and as long as they meet the proper setbacks and.
Attach it and there's a hallway to it.
Yeah.
And then we really don't have an ordinance for accessory dwelling units.
Right, of course, we put him through a lot of work to say, yeah, we don't.
Well, we did, but I don't know that that's the point, right?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I have a question, just in general, do you know, Kevin, like other townships, how long have they had something, do you have any history on, like, is the, I don't know, like Allendale or something, did they have this for 10 years? Have they encountered issues? Do you know of any history on any other townships that have faced a similar question?
So one of the samples we had looked at was from Crockery Township, so that is one of the communities that Fresh Coast Planning works with. I don't know exactly, I'd say their accessory dwelling units have been in place, I'd guess around 5 years or more. They do have restrictions on it only can be used for family members, but they also have, they also require licensing and permitting, so there's an annual review. From my understanding of Crockery, they haven't seen a lot of accessory dwelling units come up. They haven't had any major issues. Also, in preparing this ordinance for Sparta Township, I had opportunity to speak with Sparta Township's zoning administrator, planning director. And the feedback that I'd gotten from him is, so they don't restrict by family members. They haven't had other than just regular issues you see with everything in zoning, they haven't had any specific major issues with accessory dwelling units. They don't restrict by family. Obviously, the community is slightly different in Sparta. One of the things he expressed for them is with some of their industries that they have in Escoda, it's actually allowed for some workforce housing. They use them as rentals. But then also, now I hesitate, I believe they may allow short-term rentals in Escoda. I can't remember exactly, but essentially the message I got back from Escoda is they've had the ordinance in place for a number of years and haven't had any issues.
Well, I think we definitely need to put something in there as far as family unit or family members. Would everybody agree on that? We want to see what you can come up with for.
No, I can definitely get some language and bring it back to the planning commission. With family members, I guess that's where I'd be looking for direction. Would you want a motion to table it and then I bring the language back to the planning commission?
Yes. I think that's the way to go, so. Need a motion to.
I'll make a motion to table it.
I'll second it.
With the direction to address the family relationship issues. We have a motion, properly supported. Any other discussion? Hearing none, call for the motion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right. Next order of business, this is the data center regulations moratorium amendment review. And again, I'll turn it over to Kevin to bring us up to speed. We have Mr. Goodfellow there. Apparently the township, the trustees have put together something. Or you've talked about it amongst yourselves.
Yes,
And I think the way I read it is you think we ought to put the moratorium in and then, basically put the brakes on anything and get a chance to come up with some language that would be acceptable.
Correct.
Kevin, with that, I'll turn it over to you to.
So with the data center regulations, there's also the review of the moratorium, so there's two pieces.
Okay.
I know in our memo, we talked about the data center regulation first, but I'd like to go into the moratorium amendment first, if you don't mind.
Yes.
So with a moratorium to use, when I've worked on those in the past, I've always been directed, you treat those like an amendment to the zoning ordinance. And usually those are gonna be specific to use, so a moratorium on data centers, a moratorium on the So to treat it like an amendment to the zoning ordinance, that would have to come to the planning commission holds a public hearing, makes a recommendation to the board, and then the board would adopt that amendment. That process could take 3 to 4 months to work through. In my conversations with the township's legal counsel, what they've recommended is instead of putting in place a moratorium specific to data centers, there would be an amendment to the zoning ordinance. And what that amendment to the zoning ordinance will do is it will add language to the zoning ordinance, which will give the township board the authority to adopt a moratorium by the resolution. So we would put in an amendment to the zoning ordinance, we'd work through that process once, but then in the future, it'd only require a resolution by the board. So instead of having to go through a 3 or 4 month process every time a moratorium may be necessary, you're able to enact that a lot quicker. One of the concerns I had talked about with legal counsel is one of the reasons we'd recommend doing this is we're seeing a lot of rapid changes over the years between wind, solar, those have been a couple of big ones recently. Now data centers they're just rapidly changing. So by putting this in place, it allows the township to more easily adapt to some of those changing uses and the new uses that we're seeing. So instead of having to go through a 3 or 4 month process every time a moratorium may be necessary, you have to give the board the authority to do it in a much quicker fashion.
have provided us with a draft. Correct.
Yep, so the draft was prepared by legal counsel. You'll see some edit lines, that's where just we updated section numbers or other references to be specific to Sparta Township zoning ordinance.
And legal counsel has recommended amending Sparta Township zoning ordinance, correct?
Correct. Okay. And what that means specific to data centers is the process would look fairly similar. But once this ordinance was adopted and effective, then the township board would adopt a resolution for the moratorium in place.
Any comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I got a couple. Number one, is it illegal to disallow them at all within our township?
Yes.
Okay.
So, I appreciate you bringing that up. The township has to allow for all legal uses. We cannot prohibit illegal use. That's essentially the summary of it.
Then my next question is, if you didn't go this route, we went the other route, is there any legal consequences if we adopted a moratorium after a project was submitted? If there was one out there and it's submitted, is there any legal consequences if you adapt a moratorium out there after that?
I have not worked on a project where a moratorium is put in place mid-project. In the past, I worked through one of the first projects I worked on was with mini warehouses. Mini warehouse came into town, there was really no clear consensus, it was kind of 50-50 on whether people liked it or didn't like it where it was. So it was after that mini warehouse went into place, the township put in the moratorium to stop. Because they were starting to see more inquiries, we hadn't received any actual applications yet. So it just stopped those inquiries in place. I've not seen it mid-project.
Okay. Then my next question is there a maximum time frame you can put on a moratorium for certain zoning while you're working through your ordinances?
The feedback that I've gotten from multiple legal counsels is just based on court reviews is 6 months is pretty confident we can defend a moratorium for that amount of time. 12 months, and I'm kind of making up some numbers, let's say that's 80% of the time. Sometimes there's other specifics, but we have seen moratoriums for 12 months that end up, if they go to court, don't always get upheld. Over 12 months, that's kind of been the feedback that I've got from a lot of my legal counsels is that there's less of a chance that that's gonna be defensible in court. So really, 12 months would be the maximum for a moratorium that I would recommend.
Then I totally agree that this is the best way to go for most things, but does it make any sense to do it the other way with an amendment, with a public hearing and stuff like that? Because then if the max we can go is 12 months defending, possibly if it takes us 3 months to get the moratorium, now we got 15 months to figure out our zoning and what's best for the community. Or this could be done in a resolution next month, right? At the township board if they wanted to.
Yeah, so if this was
Once again, learning the rules
Yeah.
and trying to work them to the best benefit of our community.
If this was already in place, instead of going through the process, going through the amendment, the township would be able to say, there's an issue, they still have to prepare like a findings of facts, why this resolution and other support would allow you to do that much quicker. Sometimes you're working through a project, so like say with those mini warehouses, that community had mini warehouse provisions in place for a number of years, and then when we actually saw the mini warehouse go in, some of those unintended consequences came to light. If some of those other inquiries had been faster to act, if they would have been able to get in before that moratorium, that may have caused additional issues. They might have seen an additional mini warehouse that they didn't want. So that would be really in the future where you get that, you still have the same support you'd have to put in a resolution to defend your moratorium, but it allows the township to act quicker once you recognize that there's unintended consequences.
You know, then the only other statement that I got on it, that I would like to see us do something, cause they are very new and we don't know what we're doing with them, and there's gotta be a lot of research and time involved. And then if we have to have zoning in place where we can allow them, then I personally would like to see not allow it except under a special use permit, just to give a little more control over the items that we can require. That's it.
No, I agree.
I have a question, how many of these data centers do we really need in an area? We gotta have one on every corner, like we got Starbucks? Cause they're, you know, there other municipalities are looking at the same issue, and they might just go ahead and put theirs in. We might never see one.
Always a possibility. There seems to be a flurry of them, at least to this stage, that they're looking at properties.
Well, it's because of the fresh water,
Well,
and
yeah.
that they don't get taxed on anything except property taxes.
Do they, I know they use them in, you know, San Francisco on barges, but I didn't know if they were using the salt water there for cooling. I know Google and everybody else has them on barges in the bay. My daughter used to work for Dell Computers, and she worked in the cloud room, and it's basically data centers. And it's scary. They know everything.
Again, we have no proposal on the table at this point in time.
Nope, there's been,
And there's no real, I don't think there's really a proposal with the village per se. I mean, not a hard and fast thing, but they're certainly sniffing around the property, so.
no, so far for the township, as far as I'm aware, nobody in the township's been approached, at least from my side, I think, to look at those data center regulations, so there's no pending. I think my impression was just with concerns about what may be happening at the rodeo grounds, of that potentially bleeding over to the township.
Right.
So just trying to be proactive and create regulations so that,
Exactly.
again, we have to allow for all legal uses. So if we have to allow for these data centers, and one was to come to Sparta, where are those data centers appropriate? And what are the regulations that would be appropriate for the township? So it's the township being proactive.
It's kinda like what we did with wind and with the solar. I mean, we had to come up with something that say, okay, these are our rules, you know, if you could.
Well, right now, they could move in right now with, if we don't change this to a warehouse, it'd be classified as a warehouse, correct?
Not necessarily, right now, there's no language in the zoning ordinance that's specific to data centers.
Right.
So if one were to come to town, that could, the township would potentially find themselves in is like, all right, do we identify something that's closely enough related that we're saying, no, this is a communications facility. I don't know that I would consider this a warehouse per se. If it got put at that point, I'd have to have some conversations with legal counsel. There's nothing in township zoning ordinance that clearly is specific to data centers. So it could put the township in, you know, if one were to come to town, it just put the township in a more reactive position on trying to defend,
Right.
hey, we want it, this should be there.
Go somewhere else.
So with the moratorium, are there any concerns with scheduling that for public hearing and moving forward with that amendment?
I would support
I would support that too.
That's the way we wanna go on it, so.
Literally.
So you're seeing the amendment to our zoning ordinance, so that way the township board could pass it by resolution, moratorium. Is that
Yep, so for the moratorium, this will amend it. You guys will hold your public hearing, make a recommendation to the board, and then the board will have to adopt that amendment at the meeting after the public hearing. That'll become effective 7 days after it's adopted. And then once it's effective, the board will pass a resolution to put a moratorium in place on data centers. So that's where they would likely work with Township's legal counsel to make sure that that resolution is prepared appropriately.
And that could be scheduled for next meeting, or as a public hearing.
Yep. So I will get that scheduled for the moratorium for the public hearing.
Everybody in agreement on that?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd rather keep them away for 15, 16 months, 7 years,
Well,
so
yeah.
whatever, but that's, you know, the right way to do
Well,
it.
by then they all have something else.
Okay.
And then the other item is legal counsel also prepared a sample amendment for regulations for a data center. This is something they work with, provided a few of their different clients is my understanding. So the amendment would provide a definition for a cryptocurrency data mining facility as well as a data center. It would identify it as a special land use and create those specific requirements for a data center. In my quick review of the proposed draft, no major concerns. But as you'll see in the memo, there may be some other things that the planning commission would wanna consider. Whether that's minimum lot area, increased setbacks from the minimum setbacks for the industrial district. Whether or not you'd wanna require any screening or green belts, noise, if there's any other things in place there. Additionally, architectural standards, that's something I've seen in place for a few communities. Once you have a very large building, you could require varying roof lines so that it doesn't have a visual impact on the surrounding community. So whether that's tonight or if you guys want some more time to digest those recommendations, I'd be seeking feedback on how to proceed with those proposed regulations.
Do we need to put a motion forward to schedule it, or?
You could, the planning commission likes the proposed ordinance as it's written.
Oh, no.
And you don't wanna make a
No, I'm just talking about the moratorium.
Yeah.
That's a done
Yeah,
deal.
we wanna move forward with that.
You wanna move
Yeah, by all means, if you wanna do a motion to schedule that for public hearing.
moratorium? Yes.
Yep.
Oh, I thought you did it by agreement just a few minutes ago, but no motion made.
Do we need to make a motion on it?
Can we do it by consensus or do we need a motion?
I've done it both ways, it's however you guys would choose to operate, motion shows up in the minutes, it does provide a little more clarity. However you guys would choose to
Do you
proceed.
wanna make a motion?
I'll make a motion. What motion am I making again? Move forward on a public hearing about the zoning ordinance change for moratorium.
I'll second.
Dale seconded.
Motion, properly supported, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So. Schedule that for our next meeting then?
Yep, I will work on getting the public hearing scheduled for the February meeting. For the moratorium amendment.
And then in the interim, if we come up with any other information, like I think I shared with you, the MTA's book, they've got some questions and answers in there type of things. There's a lot of material out there to digest, but we definitely need to make sure that we take everything into consideration. Decommissioning them, that type of thing, I know we did that with wind and so, that type of thing, it's
potential reality. I mean, these things might be a dinosaur in 20 years, you know?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
You know, the wind and the solar are the ones that just kind of hit me, because there we are forcing these individuals to hold bonds on their properties.
Yes.
To cover removal.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if that's something we'd wanna consider. I don't necessarily think, I think there's a lot to digest in your sample ordinance for data centers. I personally would like another month to take a look at that and table that.
Sure.
And kind of get some more Q&A outside of here and learn a little more before we suggest stuff.
I do have one question if I can.
Sure.
The legal counsel made it quite adamant to differentiate between a cryptocurrency data mining facility and a data center. Do you have any input on that, Kevin, of what the difference is between the two? I mean, aren't they both data centers?
I did not ask legal counsel why they chose to differentiate, and create two definitions, but I can definitely follow up with them and provide an answer at your next meeting.
Okay.
Mining facilities pull a lot more energy.
All right, so we're clear on that now. Let's see. We have our schedule for our meetings. Is that meet with everybody's approval? All right. At this time, we'd entertain public comment on items that are not on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, yes.
if we could get a motion to
Oh.
accept the.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to accept the 2026 meeting schedule
Okay.
presented.
We have a motion,
I'll second.
properly supported. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now we'll get to the public comment. So there's items on or not on the agenda. Again, please go to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and we'll go from there.
Hi,
Thanks.
my name's Jackie Landon again. I just wanna offer some helpful information for maybe the next meeting. Michigan EDRA is a nonprofit, it's a lobbying group for communities like ours that are fighting it against data centers. So their website had full of helpful information, examples of other Michigan townships, so it's Michigan EDRA. And I highly recommend going to the website, there's a lot of helpful information.
Okay.
And then, I totally agree with what you guys, I really appreciate the back and forth with this township. I went to the village and I can honestly say I was very disheartened with how they have gone about data centers. And I really do question, there's a group called The Right Place and they are helping data centers buy lots of land in Salone Township,
Salone, yeah.
yep. And I just realized, I saw that Sparta Village has they're partners with them. So I just wanna make sure Sparta Township has no relationship with The Right Place, correct?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay,
Not as far as I'm aware.
they're a group that's pushing data centers, so that's just
Right,
something I
right.
want people to know.
I know I was at that meeting. there.
Okay.
That was brought up and they kind
Yes,
of
yes, so it is
walked around
true,
it.
it is true,
Yeah.
it's online, just something that I just wanted to clear up, so thank you.
But again, if anybody has any information, get it to us, you know, like I say, I'm getting it just about every other day, I'll find another article regarding it, so. Yes, sir.
Michael Johnson, 12240 Fruit Ridge. I recently had a complaint, last month about my business being ran out of my house, being a lawn care and snow plowing company. And I was wondering if you guys could take a look at the ordinance and possibly go over it and look at changing it as far as the legal aspect. I don't have no employees. There's no traffic coming in and out of my house. And I know you guys looked at different businesses as far as hair care and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's just, I guess, making, to see if you guys would take a look at that and see what we could do about
Okay,
that.
what was your address again?
12240 Fruit Ridge Avenue.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Oh.
I'm seeing all across Michigan the 12-month moratoriums, and they are being upheld. And this is so new, it's about like you guys trying to design a nuclear power plant in Sparta when they just came on. I think you need the full year, 6 months is not even gonna do it. And possibly during that year, some of these places that are trying to divvy up land will find somewhere else to go instead of here, so it could have that. But all over Michigan, there's other townships that are doing 1-year-long moratoriums. I know Big Rapids Township deliberately did a moratorium, and it was in the news, and they just came right out and said they don't want it in their light industrial, blah, 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 so that was very encouraging, but it didn't get a lot of press. On the accessory units, I have some concern with marriage, the family thing. I know a lot of devoted people who are not married that consider each other family, and I could see one not being able to take care of the other one if you include a family provision. Also, I also see a problem with agencies like Social Security and Department of Social Services and Veterans Affairs. If somebody has an elderly person in an accessory unit that it says it can't be a rental property, then I can see that the red tape might get involved so that person can't get their funding. So you might have a problem with that, so that people can't get the benefits, whatever they are, to live in that accessory unit. The reason I think the accessory units are coming about so much is all those tiny houses that are made now that are modernized. It's not as easy, like I'm just thinking of my own yard. I have very large maple trees that I love that shade the house, and a whole lot of stuff. I mean, I don't even want an accessory unit, but I'm just thinking it is a lot easier to get one of these that are just put on a slab and easier to get rid of than it is to add on to your house. It's cheaper. That is why I think people would want the accessory unit as opposed to adding on to their home. So if you look online, the tiny houses and accessory units are kind of plug and play. You don't have to dig into your wall or your electric, they just literally, a little bit. So I think that's one of the reasons the accessory unit is necessary. Then you have lesbian, gay, LGBTQ couples, whether that's gonna stay legal or not legal, that could possibly have a lawsuit if you say that you can only apply this to family members. So family is so ambiguous nowadays that it's kinda, but my dog, yeah, that's family. So that's just some things to think about.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Jason Reister, 12077 North Division, Sparta. I am wondering if the township has ever thought of, for Ag 2, allowing duplexes or other property on the land. If that's something that would be considered in the future, or have you considered that? That's just something I wanna see addressed in the future.
Okay, we'll definitely take a look at that. Kevin, you want anything to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a couple things, I don't know if you'd wanna go through the public comment period, but I was gonna see if the planning commission was willing to come back home so I could get some directions for some of my next steps.
We will definitely look into that, so. Anything else?
Something I forgot about. Something I forgot about. I'm a member of the garden club and we've wanted a community garden for a long time. I see that you have the Sparta Sports Park. Gardening is the #1 hobby every year, back and forth with fishing. I was involved with one in Kentwood area for over 10 years. The beauty of them is people who would never get to know each other, and pretty soon the guy down the street that didn't know anybody they're lending tools and helping each other change engines and blah blah. It really increased community and they raised property values. And with the food prices, people like to grow stuff. A lot of elderly people like to grow stuff, but we would love to have a community garden somewhere. I approached the village and they just kind of blew me off. So just something to think about. There's grants from every corporation everywhere to put in raised beds and gravel, Habitat for Humanity, fencing. So there wouldn't be much as far as expense for you guys at all to put in a community garden for the community. Cause I see Rockford has them. A lot of schools also use them. And I find that kids who have a enrichment with the teachers or whatever in a community garden have higher MEP scores on science because they got hands-on science. So it's a good thing. We got all this land, it's agricultural. More of the kids that do that actually end up going in agricultural fields if we had a community garden.
Is this more of a social group than?
Ours, we go to a different member's house in the summertime and kind of hang out and we trade plants and seeds and tour each other's gardens and then basically go to the bowling alley in the wintertime and just, socialize, but that's what a lot of, and it helps bring down barriers between different age groups and different economic groups, and people are sharing their produce, and it's just, it's beautiful. I love it.
Do you advertise for?
Did we? Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Oh, for the community for the garden club?
Yeah.
It's, Sparta Garden Club is on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
And it's, there's just one thing too, I wanted to compliment you guys. When I called somebody here about data centers, and I know there's a lot of you guys are just taking a lot of slack that you really don't, I think, deserve. And I was on Facebook posting I called and someone from the township told me, well, we really don't know anything about the data centers yet, we still have to study it. They didn't give me any bad boo-hoo about data centers. But, I researched myself and went on the Sparta Communications page and posted some facts from the University of Michigan. And I got floored by the wife of the village president and really rude comments saying it all came from you guys and you guys gave me all this information and none of it came from you guys. So I'm just here to defend you that my brain is not connected to the village and I'm not getting my disinformation from you guys, and I appreciate that you're taking the heat and staying strong.
Anything else? All right. Any comments from anyone that we need to?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
First of all, I didn't catch your name even though I've heard it 3 times tonight. The Community Garden Club, the first Thursday of the month at 7 o'clock right here, if you wanna do something out at the sports park and try to coordinate something like that. The sports park board has a meeting here, the first Thursday of every month at 7 p.m. But knowing that board a little bit, I would highly suggest you come in with a plan, not just start talking about it. And I don't know if you're involved with it or not. But Sue Blackhall, I don't know if you know her at all, that'd be a good lady to talk to about that, because she's like Mrs. Garden around here with flowers and that type of plants, different type, right? She's very well known here, and what Susie wants, she usually gets. But
So talk to Susie.
that's cause she just doesn't give up. That's number one, but number two, I wanted to make sure it was clear. As far as me personally, as an individual and as a planner, I'm not 100% anti-data center. I don't know enough about them at all yet. But I think as a planner, we need to educate ourselves enough before we set something in place, you know, that our whole community's gotta live by. And to be honest with you, if we got done and I was still, and I was pro data center, I would still be looking at the benefits of it for the community myself, because our job is to do what's best for the community up here in the zoning. But I'm not rah, no, absolutely no data center. I don't know enough about them, I just know that I have slid down that rabbit hole once or twice, and I find more bad than good. So, but our job is to do what's best for the community. The moratorium, if we pass that, the stuff we do when we have that public hearing, that's that'll be to change our zoning. So the board has the ability, the township board, the people that are actually elected, not appointed, have the ability to do that when they need to, right? It's not, data centers are bringing it up, but data centers aren't the whole reason. I think the more you talked about it, I just think that is just plain a good idea. And I don't know if when we got to that point about data centers, whether I would be recusing myself or not, cause I'm actually your neighbor, right up the road, so, his neighbor. And I like him better cause they brought me goodies to eat for Christmas and you didn't.
Wait to see freeze here.
What do you like? That was all, I just wanted to make sure on record, cause I don't want people leaving here saying, yeah, the whole planning commission is so totally anti-data center and blah, blah, blah. I just don't think we all know enough yet, and knowing these board members as long as I have, they all wanna do what's best for the community and wanna get educated on it before they do make any decisions, so, thanks.
All right. You had a comment here on the land division amendments, again, that was in this month's, they've changed that now, it used to be, you know, four splits on 10 acres or whatever.
Yeah, so just to give the full planning commission kind of an update, it's been in process at the state level for, I think, a year, maybe a little bit more. But an amendment to the Land Division Act was adopted at, I think, December 23rd, I can't remember exactly, at the end of the year. What those changes will mean, in general, right now, a property under 20 acres is allowed 4 splits, so meets and bounds splits. To divide property, you can do meets and bounds splits, you can create condominiums, or you can do flats. So when I say meets and bounds splits, if you have a 20-acre property, as long as you meet the minimum lot area provisions and minimum width and road frontage provisions, it's a very relatively simple process. You get an updated survey and you can split that property. Right now, the Land Division Act, again, for a parcel under 20 acres, limits that to essentially, I think of it as like you're cutting a cake. You don't get to cut it 4 times, but you get to make it into 4 pieces. So a 20-acre property could be split 4 times. With the changes to the Land Division Act, that'll change. So for the first 10 acres of a property, you'll be able to have 10 splits. Overall, I don't really have a lot of major concerns for Sparta Township because you still have the ability to put in those minimum lot area regulations, lot frontage. So when we talk about the A1 district, you guys have the sliding scale. Those changes to the Land Division Act are not gonna have a major impact to the A1 district. Where we may see some of those changes would be in the R1 or the Ag 2 districts. Just again, from a quick review, for the R1, again, not a lot of major concerns. That's where, in a lot of the southeast portion of the township, that's where the master plan identifies for single family, low density residential. Where we may see some unintended consequences here in Sparta would be in the northeast of the township, which is predominantly Ag 2. That's where we have seen a lot of growth within the township in the last few years with new private roads, with splits. So that would be one change within the Ag 2 district. When somebody came in on a 20-acre parcel right now, they'd be able to create 4 splits. With those changes to the Land Division Act, there could be a lot more splits that were intended 20, 30 years ago when those provisions were put in place. And for the Ag 2 district, it's only a minimum of 1 acre and 150 feet of frontage. So it's just something to keep in mind. Again, I don't know if this is gonna have a quick major impact, there's still some time before it becomes effective. But I'll be working to try to bring some more stuff to the planning commission as we get a better idea of how that will impact Sparta.
Good enough. Yes, that's it.
I do have 2 questions to follow up with you on,
Sure.
Mr. Chairman. So getting some feedback from the planning commission, like Mr. Johnson said, you know, there's a complaint made against him, that he was operating a business out of his home, out of his pole barn on the property. If that is the case, that would not be, home occupations can only occur within the home right now. So in my conversations with Mr. Johnson, that's where we wanted to approach the planning commission to see if you'd be willing to give some feedback on whether or not you'd be willing to review the home occupation regulations to potentially allow somebody to operate a home occupation within a pole barn, or review any of those other regulations. So essentially, what I've seen, I know some communities will allow home occupations within pole barns. I know when I went back to college, I worked for a buddy who was a remodeling contractor, and he operated out of his pole barn. So I really just wanna get some direction from you. Is that something you would wanna look at and review, or would your position be more of, no, the home occupation regulations we have in place today are what need to stay in place?
Probably a certain amount of individuals that are in the business itself, if employees and stuff like that, have to limit that, correct?
Definitely you can, that's where it's limited right now, is it, right now, the kind of a summary of your home occupations that has to occur within the home. It can only be, I believe, 25% of the floor area up to 500 square feet, and only people that live there can be employed by the single family dwelling.
Sounds reasonable.
For the home occupation.
Yeah.
So right now I have had a couple inquiries about, a few months ago, somebody wanted to start a small lawn care business. It was a young man who wanted to run a pole barn, use his grandfather's pole barn, stores trailers, equipment inside there, and my direction to him was, nope, you cannot use that to operate a business out of.
Okay.
Even for storing his equipment?
Even for storing the equipment.
What if the equipment's not the company's? It's his, personally. Like I said, once again, just.
He leases it to the company through his LLC.
Because I'm just gonna tell you, this guy got a complaint filed against him, but he's probably one in 100 or 200 or maybe even, 1,500 in the township, if not more, that are doing it. Right, so the problem is, my opinion is we should probably take a look at it, because I would rather, once again, I don't like government control either, but if people are gonna do it regardless, do we wanna run around finding everybody and, because they're still gonna do it. I mean, they're just gonna be a little more, indiscreet about it, so a little more covert about it, but I would think that was something we should possibly at least look at, talk about a little bit, cause it's happening all over our township, every township.
Well, let's put that on our list of things to review. I know we've got a list. We've had a list in the past with items that we wanna look at, so definitely. Yes.
So, I'm not a concrete guy, but a concrete guy drives his work pickup home that's got tools on it. What's the difference of him parking it in his pole barn or a guy who owns it just parking it in his pole barn? You know what I mean?
Right.
HVAC guys, all.
Yeah, those guys too. Like, I own an excavating company and I have a shop, but I also have a pole barn at my house. So it's like, well, I want to drive my dump truck home. Sure. I can't throw it in my barn. I mean, it just seems weird to me. I don't know.
Right. Well,
you know what I'm saying?
We'll open it up and take a look and see if we can
Obviously, you don't
Makes
want
it-
100 trucks going there every day.
No.
Right, but.
And then the other question I have to follow up was on Mr. Reister's question around duplex. I know they are in the process of, if they're approved for a private road, they have a pending land division. So whether or not you'd wanna open that up to look at allowing duplexes either as a use by right or a special land use in more areas of the township. Just looking for some direction so that I can give some clear direction back to Mr. Reister on how to proceed. And is that something that you're even open to allowing?
I think it's something we should definitely look at. I think, yeah, is anybody else?
I agree. I agree. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
What address is your property?
12077 North Division.
Thank you.
So add it to the work list.
Yes.
Those are all the comments and questions that I have for the commission. Thank you.
Anything else from board members?
I'm good.
Okay, entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you all.
You didn't ask if anybody was opposed.
I thought I heard 4 votes.